Welcome to Creating Disney Magic with Lee Cockerell. Lessons in leadership, management, and customer service. You can create magic too. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and of course, with me is the star of the show, the retired executive vice president of Walt Disney World, Lee Cockerell. Hello, Lee.
A lot of stars up in the sky. I don't know. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's always I become so familiar. Sometimes I just forget to remind people that who you are, that you who what you used to do because I get so accustomed to it, but we get new listeners to the show. Maybe sometimes I need to point out who you are.
Yeah, I was thinking today a good subject is for all of us to remember you're relevant until you're not. And, you're a star until you're not a star. People remember you until they don't. And so it's a good thing to remember to behave yourself while you're going through your stardom so people don't think you're a jerk. Yeah.
Oh, so I have a funny story related to that. I don't this involves your son Daniel. And he said it as a joke. So saying this, I don't want it to come across that Daniel's arrogant because he is not. It was so it was funny. So right after Daniel retired from Walt Disney World, we went to someone else's retirement party. And when it was over, Dan said to me, "Have you ever been to the stables?" I said, "I didn't even know Disney had stables." He said, "Yeah, we can just walk right over there. This is where we keep all the horses." We go over and he's telling me stories about the horses, and some of them are so big. They're beautiful horses. And then a cast member comes up and said, "I'm so sorry, guys. This is a backstage area. Only cast members can be back here." And we said, "Oh, apologize for that. We'll leave." And as we're walking out, Dan whispers to me, "Doesn't she know who I used to be?" And I
Yeah,
think he said it as a joke, but it's actually a meaningful story because Lee just said be careful when you're a star because someday you won't be relevant. And that's not what I intended to talk about, Lee. But since you brought it up, let's talk about remaining relevant.
yeah. I mean, I think when we think about all the people in the world who are doing important things or anything that where people report to them or they're in charge of an organization or literally they're having successes in their career, they're getting promoted, and they're you got to be careful not to become a big shot. And I think you can some people get promoted maybe too fast. They think they're hot stuff. Other people are insecure, so they try to project that they're a big deal, and they don't always treat people right, and they're not available, and they don't speak to people, and focus on the people that you're working with. And I've known many of those people in my life, and I think back at my age, I think back about them, and I think back, nobody even knows who they are now. They thought they were such hot stuff back then, and they're, and it's just a reminder to be respectful, be nice, take care of people, help people. Everybody's going through problems in their life. Don't be, we did one the other day where we talked about, the lady who had told me that her boss always asked her how her daughter was doing, and she said she didn't have a daughter. She'd worked for him for 10 years, and he didn't know she had a son. And that kind of stuff is like, it just kind of puts that little barrier between you and them. And you got to wonder what they say about you to other people later and how that affects your effectiveness at work and getting things done and your reputation and do people trust you. And, I think all our mothers said, don't get too big for your britches. And in Texas, I think they say some people have a hat and no cattle, a big hat, no cattle. And we've all met them. We all know them. And a lot of that happens to insecurity, wanting to be somebody. Who knows why it happens, but it certainly it's something you ought to take right down and remember every day to you're human and you need to be human and not not to be the star. And we see a lot of stars. How many people that are really, really, really successful are not very happy? They get in all kinds of trouble. They get in problems. They get divorces. The kids, they fight over the inheritance. And I mean, it's like, is that really life of that moment of, what do they say, your 15 minutes of fame? And that's what it really is at the end of the day. You're not so important, and you might be important, and then you're not important again. And there's kind of a peak, uh, kind of like, I guess, climbing Mount Everest. You're up, but it's hard, and you get there, it's a glory, and then down you go, and that's it, it's over. Uh, but I think about this a lot, and I think it's some message we try to send all the time in these podcasts and in our books and in the Main Street Leader is helping people understand who they are and to be somebody who's out there doing good and not creating problems for people. People have enough problems already, and it's it's not for the employees to change you. You got to really be thinking about your own your behavior and awareness and paying attention, and it's the same at home with your kids and with your wife. If you think you're a big deal, I told Priscilla, she said, you're not a big deal here. Take the trash out. Or you're not an executive vice president when you get home, so don't be telling me what to do. I think those are classics. And my father-in-law was an admiral in the Navy, and his wife used to tell him the same. You're not an admiral here. Let's get the table cleared and do the dishes. It's good that you have somebody that keeps you on track before you mentally become more than people think you really are. And most of our fame is in our own head. and if you're not careful, you'll send the wrong message out, and you lose credibility, and then people don't listen to you, and then people don't think you know what you're doing, and all he thinks about himself, and he doesn't know who us. He doesn't even know my last name. He said he was going to talk to me again about my career, and I haven't heard from him. It's been a year, and I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. When you think you're a big deal, you get kind of sidelined, focusing on yourself instead of on your responsibilities. And yeah, so this is a good subject, and I think about it. I was looking last night at my high school class. I just online, and boy, one after the other, they're gone. The guy head of the football team, the guy was a valedictorian. They're gone, and boom, they died. And I guarantee you, nobody in Ardmore even knows who they are. Uh, don't remember them. Most of their family's gone too, so nobody. So life is short, and make the difference through people helping versus trying to raise your own stardom. And we see it all the time. I mean, we read about it every day in the paper, online. People who come off with that attitude of it's all about me. So I like to think about it a lot because I get a lot of feedback from people saying that they had dealt with me in the past and I'd helped them, and it made a difference of when I was coaching them to understand that I had some humility, and I had took the time to talk to them and took the time to help them, and that's what they remember. They don't remember Lee Cockerell as the executive vice president. I remember I helped them. When you help people, they don't forget. And why not? So we all should do that. We should actually, what somebody say, life is service. Wake up in the morning and do something good. Uh, Help somebody, make somebody's life better. And sometimes you get paid for that. And sometimes you just get personal satisfaction from that. And often you make people better because you do it that way. And so at least for a little while, people will remember. You'll be famous for a little bit, and then you won't. Somebody said what did they say? He said, you're not dead until the last person who knew you is dead. It's true. And so I try to meet babies so they'll know who I am. So I'll live longer. But it's true, we fade away, and we're not as big a deal as we think we are. Stardom about me, me, me. And so for all everybody out there ought to take that into consideration. I'm sure we're going to get feedback on this if somebody needs to talk to my boss. I mean, the guys I work with, the lady I work for. We're gonna. This is always a hot subject because so many people are just not serving. They're wanting to be served, and that's not the way to go. Yeah. So that's
Yeah,
why I sell Priscilla. What can I do for you, darling?
what an interesting topic and something to keep in mind. And Lee is right. I see a lot of the emails, people reaching out to Lee and saying, well, one just recently, 14 years ago, Lee gave someone advice. The guy followed it and now is a HR director because Lee gave him candid advice on what he needed to do if he wanted to have a successful career. And my goodness, he actually followed the advice. Sometimes I think people take advice as just entertainment, but this guy followed the advice and it mattered. And Lee also has a good story of being good to someone around him, someone that he supervised at Marriott, who later brought him on to Disney. And
Yeah.
that's a good one, Lee. That just shows you were a good supervisor.
Well, I think being having good relations with people, most people that want to bring you on to do something for them and work with it, they want to trust that you know what you're doing because you take the load off of them. And they don't want to bring in a problem that's going to create more work for them. So I think that's right. You got to maintain relationships, stay humble, do what you say you're going to do, keep your promises, and just realize that fame is short. So that's uh, that's the message, I guess, for today is be be the right kind of person, and instead of and maybe a lot of people need to see a psychiatrist or why they don't do that. A lot of people have insecurities and don't know what, and they're dealing with things that uh, you see times all the time where people work 10 jobs in 10 years, they don't last, they don't, you wonder what happened, and are they trying to look into that to try to find out why they had to leave or they were fired or moved on. And that's be respectable and keep your promises and be reliable and have a good attitude and help other people, and you'll probably have a pretty decent career and life, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a good message. Uh, as Lee said, life is about service. It's all about serving other people. And if that's your approach, you'll be a great leader. People will remember you. They'll talk about you after you retire. I I think Lee, when you retired, everybody at Walt Disney World knew you, but there are some now that maybe don't. But it's surprising how many people at Walt Disney World still know the name Lee Cockerell. So I think you've done okay.
I'm still alive. They asked Daddy, "How's your dad?" And he said, "Oh, he's fine. He's still alive." So it's true. Yeah. And they remember you too if you're a jerk. So
Yeah.
get remembered for the right reasons. And yeah, and actually that note I sent you about that guy that 14 years ago called me, I got another one too that 12 years ago, another fellow said he contacted me and he's doing great now. And another lady wrote me that she wrote her PhD paper on my work of
Wow.
the fine points of creating the right culture in a business, where we talk about hiring and training and all that kind of stuff. And so that was three good ones this week. Made me feel good. So, and I wrote it back and said, I appreciate that. It makes me feel good that I can, that you're thinking about, that you learned something, because that's what you want your kids to do too. Someday say, thanks, Dad. I learned a lot from you. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Lee, bef before we wrap up, I have a story to go along with what we're talking about. We always talk about Magical Vacation Planner on the show, have for many years, and it's great to hear back from people, just like Lee has heard back from people that he gave them advice. How did it turn out? Well, I recently heard from someone who, after hearing us talk about Magical Vacation Planner for years, his family booked a vacation with Magical Vacation Planner. And Lee in the past has talked about moment of truth. Well, that was a moment of truth. Was Magical Vacation Planner going to live up to what Jody and Lee say they are? And I'm happy to report I heard back from him, and he said they were fabulous leading up to the vacation. During the vacation, everything turned out the way they said it would be. So that's good to hear, Lee, because here we talk about him every week, and we're getting letters, emails of people saying, "Hey, what you said about them is true." So if you want to book a vacation with Magical Vacation Planner, you can reach them at 407-442-2694. Or if you go to leecockerell.com, there's a banner right there on the website. And I also encourage you to visit cockerellstore.com. All of our courses are on there, all of Lee's books, and plenty of free resources are there as well. So, Lee, this has been a good conversation. I'm glad you're still relevant and people still remember who you are.
And you might want to mention what we're going to do in October, perhaps, that people can
That's right.
about whether they'd like to come or not, because we only have a few slots available.
That's right. Our next Creating Magic Mastermind is going to be in Orlando in October. And we're new location for the first time ever. We are going into the Disney Springs Resort area. So we're going to be right across the street from Disney Springs. It's going to be a great time. You can reach out to either one of us to get more information or go to cockerellstore.com and you will find there's a spot for it there. So that is, if you have questions about it, reach out. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Until then, go out and create magic for others.